Welcome to Uncaged. Today we're speaking with Dr. Gerald Lackey. Gerald, we're going to be talking about a lot of good stuff today, but certainly we'll be talking about his role as the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles Commissioner. The DMV is something that touches all of our lives in one way or the other. And Dr. Lackey will tell us about what he and his team are working on there. But before we get there, tell us a little bit about you and your career.
I've had an interesting path here, Bant. I get the question a lot. How do you come to run the DMV? And I would say it's kind of happenstance, but I went to school to be a social psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
And after getting my doctorate, decided I wanted to travel, see the world, joined McKinsey as a business consultant and started focusing in on transforming organizations around the world. A lot of them oil and gas and chemical companies, energy companies, and a little bit of public sector. I did some of that work in India, the Middle East, Europe, and then came back stateside. And after about 10 years there and making junior partner, decided I wanted to get into running businesses. So I went
Mm-hmm.
to work for GAF, world's largest roofing manufacturer, helped lead a transformation of their product development group and grew that into some operational efficiency work and got a phone call and a couple conversations later ended up down here at the Virginia DMV becoming a public servant, which I'm thoroughly
Wow.
enjoying for the last 9 months.
That's really exciting. Now, I mean, I think that everyone has their own preconceived notions of the Department of Motor Vehicles and what goes on there. But tell us what you're working on.
But we got a lot of stuff going on. So that DMVs are different all across the country. That's one thing when I was outside of the DMV, I did not realize. But in Virginia, we oversee all of the driver licenses and credentials. We oversee all of the vehicle work and transactions related to that. We oversee all of the way stations and motor carrier certification and enforcement. And we oversee all of the safety, highway safety work here in the state of Virginia. So, in terms of what we got going on, we've got a little bit of everything going on, a lot of work transforming each one of those areas across the state.
Yeah. And I mean, I think of just the broader mobility sector and all of the changes that are happening right now. Certainly, it's a lot of discussion about just literally infrastructure. And we all have the shift over to electric vehicles and certainly making sure that the people that are on the road have the skills to do it, safely and fairly. But I mean, when you think about the marketplace right now, what's top of mind for you and the team? And really, I'd say, some of the, I'd say, citizens of the state of Virginia.
Yeah, I'd say there's two big things that are top of mind, not just for Virginia, but for a lot of the states in the union right now. One is mobile IDs. So how do we
Mm,
create secure identities? It used to be about credentials, right? You got a piece of plastic that showed who you were. That still exists. Obviously, it's a predominant form of ID, but we are moving quickly towards identities that are virtual. The Virginia DMV is going to be the eighth state to launch a mobile ID next year. And each one of those states that has launched it previous, some of them have been more successful than others in terms of preventing fraud and securing it. So, how do we do this in a way that allows you to vote with this ID, show it to a police officer, board a plane, purchase alcohol, conduct financial transactions? I mean, this is the birth of a new ecosystem around identifying who you
wow.
are. And the DMVs across the country are the ones who are sitting at the center of all that. Because for better or worse, that your driver's license is the predominant form of identity in this country. So that's one big top of mind topic for us.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a small feat to pull off. So how will it manifest itself? I mean, will this be something that can sit on my phone? Or, I mean, will there be some form of this or how will it function? Yeah.
So again, there have been eight states. Each one's done it slightly differently. What has come to be the standard, and these are early days that we're developing these standards with an organization called AMVA, which is the national organization of all the different DMVs in the country, is helping to establish those standards. But the way it should work is you will be able to use it in your Apple Wallet, your Google Wallet, your Samsung Wallet. Just like you might have your frequent flyer card or maybe a credit card in there, it's going to sit in that wallet. In the Virginia version, we're also going to have a separate mobile app. And for us, this is going to be the beginning of a mobile channel, which we don't have today. More and more Americans are wanting to conduct business virtually, and we're seeing that also shift from internet PC usage to mobile usage. And so
Mm,
we're considering how do we use this mobile ID as a launching pad for creating a new mobile channel where you'd have all of your vehicle information. You'd be reminded when you had to pay your property taxes, when your registration was due, when you needed to get a state inspection done. It'd have all of your identity information in it. It can do a variety of other things, but it's taking shape where you will have an app and you'll have your credential in your wallet. There's also a couple really interesting things about the credential itself. Unlike a driver's license where you share all of your information to whoever you give it to, the mobile identity, you're able to decide what you want to share. You're entering a
mm.
club, you push a button, they scan the QR code, and it just tells them you're over 21 or you're over 18. They don't get to know where you live. They don't get to know your height and all these other things about you. Obviously, state police and boarding a plane gives you more information, but
Right.
the idea is it gives the consumer more control over who gets the information about their identity.
I think of all of the struggles over the last, 20 years to try to get a clear identity, and certainly all of the challenges online that social networks have had with not clear identity issues. So it does seem to me that this is not a small feat, but also a really, really critical step forward. But I mean, Gerald, you're working on a lot of interesting stuff, and clearly now you find yourself as a servant of the state, a civil servant. Tell me about what drives your passion for what you're doing right now.
I think what's always driven my passion for things have been people. I love people. Um, I want people to be seen and heard and taken care of. It's why I went into social psychology. I learned to apply those skills in business. And what's been amazing about my public servant work right now is that I'm actually having a direct impact on 8.6 million people.
Yeah.
Um, I love the fact that we reduced regulations by 13% last year. 274 regulations we stripped away in an effort to make it easier to work with us. I love the fact that we've introduced over $2 million in bills to reduce fees and fines that the DMV imposes to reduce the cost of doing business with us. So I like it when people are able to get done what they need to get done and get taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I know that there are so many conversations around privacy. I've been in several discussions lately around privacy of data with healthcare and healthcare space. But I love the way that your solution is actually associating it in a way so that the citizen will have control over how they share that information and in what way. That seems to be kind of a perfect way to offer that flexibility while also giving the benefits of sharing some of the data when most needed and most appropriate. But I mean, here we are, Gerald. We're at lovely, lovely end of a year. And we're heading into a big, big year, 2024. Lots of stuff happening, the Olympics in France and the elections and all of those fun things. But tell me a little bit about what you see on the horizon for what you're working on.
Well, you mentioned things that are on the top of mind across the country. The other one that I think is interesting is almost all DMVs, including Virginia's, are turning 100 years old next year.
Wow.
And we're going to be doing a lot of celebrations around that, but it's also a time to reflect. There's a couple of things that have been pretty much the mainstays of the motoring public since 1923. One of those is the fuels tax.
Hmm.
The first fuels tax in Virginia was instituted in the 1920s, and it put a 5 cents per gallon tax on fuel to pay for roadway construction.
Hmm.
Electric vehicles, high efficiency vehicles don't use gas. How do we get them to help pay their fair share of taking care of the roads? We're trying to figure that out right now. We've got several pilot programs we're running, and we're working with other states to figure out what's a fair way to collect money to take care of a public good, which is our highways and our bridges and our roadways. That's going to be a major focus next year in terms of trying to help figure that out.
Yeah.
And it's an issue that's across the country. The other one that's really important for us, we've had a good year with fatalities. So 12% down on fatalities this year. We're very proud of that. But we are taking a different approach, a very community centered approach for our highway safety work. We've looked at the full rig focus areas that we have, and we've looked at where in the state those things are occurring at the highest frequency, and we're working with those localities to actually try to engage at the street level to stop pedestrians from getting hit, stop speeding, stop roadway takeovers, working closely with the police departments, working closely with community organizations safety is going to be a big focus for us next year. Every year, the equivalent of 3 fully loaded planes crashing into Virginia, people die on the highways. It's
Yeah.
1,000 people, and we need to do something about that. So we've taken a different approach, and I'm hoping it's going to pay some dividends next year.
Well, I mean, listening to all of the things that you guys have going on, I'm very heartened and excited to see how some of these projects materialize. And certainly the safety thing. I mean, I've driven that road from DC down to Carolina many a time and know the risks that are there. And so it's really, really good to hear that you guys are focusing on safety next year at the ripe young age of 100.
That's right.
Excellent. Well, we've been speaking with Dr. Gerald Lackey. Gerald, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, where's the best place to reach you?
The easiest place to reach me is actually through our website. It's a way to reach out to the commissioner and the constituent concerns team. And you also find me on LinkedIn. I've got a pretty active page. I like to post quite a bit about what we're doing in the DMV motoring world and safety. So feel free to reach out to me on there as well.
Well, I think you found yourself in an exciting role here, touching on some of the larger issues that we face in society in general. We've been speaking with Dr. Gerald Lackey. He is the commissioner of the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles, and we've been talking to him really about some of the issues that we see in other spaces as well. Just data identity, managing identities, and thinking about how that applies to not only getting your driver's license, but how it can be structured in a way where we're not carrying a plastic card around in our wallet, and it's touching on all aspects of our lives. Thinking about security and how we improve security and safety for folks as they travel around the roads on and move forward. So Dr. Gerald Lackey, thank you so much for being on the show today, and we look forward to having you back.
Thank you for inviting me. Appreciate it, Ben.